Well, thanks, Senator. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for having me. It's interesting. We did the trade mission to Israel my first year in office, and we've recently been dealing with, we did a whole bunch of stuff: academic engagement, business engagement. I mean, it was really an incredible trip. So we're dealing with different issues regarding Lake Okeechobee. We have algae blooms. We're concerned about how the Army Corps of Engineers may discharge water in our estuaries. And so I'm working with the Department of Environmental Protection. I said, we've got to be proactive. If this algae, if they do this, what can we do? What do we have? And it turns out we have relationships now with various companies, including an innovative tech company in Israel who has solutions for this blue-green algae. So we actually had this happening in one of the canals. These guys are out there, they're applying all this, biodegradable, it's working. So I was able to go out down in Southwest Florida a couple of weeks ago and see that firsthand, but it just shows, the relationship. We're over there, we're doing this. We have Israeli companies that are actually helping Florida meet some of the needs. And so we really appreciate the relationship that we have. Joe mentioned the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That was something that we worked really hard on in Congress, and we're able to get that done under President Trump. And I was there when they actually opened the embassy, which is a really incredible experience. We knew then, we knew when I first became governor, and of course we see now, we have to deal with anti-Semitism that I think if you look back 20 years ago, anti-Semitism is worse today than it was, which is really incredible that we would be seeing that. And I think the best way to do it from a position in elected office is we got to go on offense against anti-Semitism. I think we've done a good job of doing that in conjunction with the Florida legislature. My first year in office, we signed the anti-Semitism bill into law. Actually, when we were in Jerusalem, that basically says, anti-Semitism is akin to how we would treat racism. It has no place in our academic institutions, not just K through 12, but also higher education. And we thought that that was very important and send a strong message. Also, when I first came into office, you had Airbnb that was engaging in activities that violated Florida's BDS law. We spoke out on that immediately. We added them to our list of companies that had run afoul of Florida anti-discrimination law. And sure enough, very shortly after that, Airbnb reversed the policy that unfairly targeted Jews. I think when you look to see some of the things that are happening in Israel, the demonization of Israel really feeds anti-Semitism. I'm very pro-Israel. I have great relationships over there. I'm proud of that. Same time, you don't have to support, have a good relationship. It's fine. If you criticize Israeli policy, that's all fair game. But when they are singled out for disfavored treatment over countries that are committing untold atrocities, and yet Israel, say the #1 country that's getting sanctioned by the United Nations over and over again, when they're held to a different standard and singled out like that, that does feed anti-Semitism. And so we've been very strong in saying Israel has a right to defend itself. And if these international institutions are singling them out and applying a different standard to the world's only Jewish democracy, then we are saying, yes, that is anti-Semitic to apply a separate standard in that way. We also believe that it's very important that we have very strong Holocaust education in our K through 12 schools throughout the state of Florida. I signed a bill in 2019-2020 year, making sure that school districts have Holocaust instruction that is accurate and that is telling the accurate story. We cannot have people try to whitewash the Holocaust in Florida schools. We're just not going to put taxpayer dollars to that. Very important that that story is told. We're also proud of what we've been able to do to support safety at Jewish day schools. We did another $4 million in this year's budget to support security at Florida's Jewish day schools. We also did hundreds of thousands of dollars to different types of Holocaust remembrance, either memorials or task force. And we think that that's something that's very, very important. So Florida, I think, regardless, almost everybody, regardless of party, I think is united to say, we have no tolerance for this anti-Semitic behavior. When I hear these stories about people, when you see some of the stuff happening with Hamas, that somebody who's Jewish just walking down the street and is getting attacked or accosted, Certainly in other parts of the country, I've heard some really, really bad stuff. And then we've seen some of this nasty stuff in Florida. I think we all just need to speak with one voice and say that this is not something that's going to be tolerated here. We are going to stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters, and we are absolutely going to stand strong in support of the Florida-Israel relationship. And I tell you, as governor, I'm going to defend Israel's rights to keep their citizens safe against terrorist attacks. And so I want to thank all the legislators who've worked really hard on a lot of great legislation over the last many years. I know as more issues come down the pike, we'll be there, but we really feel like from BDS to Holocaust education to fighting anti-Semitism, we really feel in Florida that when these issues present themselves, the legislature steps up and we're able to sign some very good bills into law and also have good budget support for things like security, Jewish day schools, and of some of our synagogues. So thank you all, and God bless everybody.